Many of us reach a point in our careers where we feel pulled towards something more fulfilling. But let's be honest, the idea of starting over can be overwhelming. If you ever wondered, what if it doesn't work out? You're not alone. That's why I brought in my friend Shannon Russell, founder and CEO of Second Act Success. After 16 years in TV production, Shannon realized her career didn't align with what matters most to her anymore. So she made the bold move to build a coaching business, and now she's helping other women do the same. Welcome to the show, Shannon.
Thank you so much, Heike. It's so great to see you.
Let's dive right in. We're all about taking action on the Pursue Your Spark podcast and everywhere else. So give us an example when you ignited your spark. What happened?
Well, my spark began in my first career as a television producer. It was my dream since I was a little girl. And then I think once I became a mom, that family having that kind of changed my priorities. And that's when my second act spark kind of came about when I said, what else can I do in this one life I'm given? Let's see what I can do next. And that's where my journey kind of led me.
Can you take us back to that the exact moment where that happens? Because I know everybody's wants to know. Shannon walking down the street, coming back from her TV job. What give us that put us right there.
I know the exact moment I was working. I had worked in New York, worked in LA, back in New York. I had a 3-year-old at home and I was pregnant, 8 months pregnant with my little one. And I was running through the Times Square subway station in heels, trying to get my bus to commute back an hour and a half to pick up my 3-year-old from daycare. And that was the moment in tears on that bus that I said, I cannot do this anymore. My priorities shifted. I love TV. I absolutely love my career, but the stress of trying to balance it all just kind of consumed me. And I said, what else can I do? Because I don't want to have this fear of not being home in time to pick him up and not being that present mom that I wanted to be. So everything changed in that moment in that subway station.
So what's the first step you took then?
I think admitting to myself that I really was going to figure out a new plan. And it wasn't until I was on maternity leave with my new son at the time that my show was canceled. And it was that moment where I said, okay, I can pick up the phone and get another television job, or I can actually use this as a sign to figure out my next thing. And so I thought and I thought and I thought, and I did so many things wrong, Heike. I really just jumped into what I thought I needed to be doing as a mom to contribute to my family and be present with the kids. So I made a lot of missteps, like taking a local job that was very toxic. I joined a master's program to become a teacher and get my master's in education, even though I did not want that. So I did a lot of missteps until I had another epiphany where I said, I'm going to produce my own life. I'm going to figure out what my next step is. And that was launching my first business.
I love it. And how did you prioritize yourself during those times to accomplish what led to the second act success?
It was really having those conversations with myself, which I think a lot of us don't do. Really just taking that moment of turning and saying, how am I? Am I doing okay right now? Am I happy? Am I feeling fulfilled? And we don't do that, especially as moms, and we're busy worrying about the kids and our partner and work and the family and the house. And I decided to take my lunch breaks at this job that I couldn't stand, this local toxic job. And I went and sat in my car and I would listen to podcasts and I would just kind of talk to myself and say, what would make me happy? How can I take my skills from my television career and pivot them into something else so I don't have to go back to TV and be away from my babies? So that was, I think, talking to myself where I really got to the heart of what I wanted.
It's really hard for so many of us to be honest with ourselves, and like you just said, we're making sure that everybody else is happy, everybody else has what they need, except for us. We suck it up literally and say,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna like this toxic job. It's gonna get better." And then
Mhm.
you waste years in that position, and it's just not getting better. But we're
No.
so afraid also feel guilty to taking a piece of the pie for ourselves.
Mm. A lot of guilt, yeah, and I think it was I was missing I missed my first son's first birthday, I was missing the Halloween parades, I was missing all of that, and that was when I said, "Okay, I can check the box on that first career, it was my dream, I accomplished it. What else can I accomplish in this life?" And that job, that 9 to 5 toxic job was not it. I realized I did not want to get that master's in education because I didn't want to be a teacher. I was trying to fill in the gaps on what I thought I should be doing as this suburban mom. And when I realized that maybe I can take a piece of the pie for myself, like you said, and build a business that will give me a way of being in charge, using my producer skills to create this business and still be able to be with my kids during the day and be the class mom. I think that was the most important step I did is to really check in with myself and allow myself to realize that I can make myself happy too.
And you're your own boss now. It's nobody
Mhm.
is waving the clock over your head or shoving assignments your way. And you're like, oh, birthday party today. Oh,
Yeah.
club, whatever outing today. We're just not going to worry about it. And it feels so freeing. And I can so relate to when I switched from working at clubs and studios for Pilates and fitness to open my own business where I'm the boss. And it's a stressful situation because we have to now bring in the money. Nobody's giving us a paycheck or paid vacation
Right.
as when you're employed. But I think the freedom that comes with this is so worth the risk.
Yeah. And it's that fulfillment too, that you're creating this. And you and I both used our skills from our first career and what we've learned to open our businesses. And I think we're showing our kids, we're showing others that it can be done and that it's sometimes you can work more than you did in the corporate job, but you're working on your own accord. It's for your own dream instead of someone else's.
Someone else's. Now, which brings me back to self-doubt. Many women struggle with self-doubt during a major career pivot, which yours was. It's not just I'm taking on another job in the same company. What mindset strategy or exercises do you recommend for women for overcoming that intimidation and stepping into their second act?
Mhm. I think it's realizing that first step that we are more than our career titles. You know, we're more than that title. And what I suggest to my clients is to write down all of the titles that you have. And that can be sister, it can be daughter, it can be neighbor, all the titles, taking that experience from them and saying, whoa, I am really such a full rounded person. And I can take all that experience from all these aspects of my life and move that into something else that is going to
Mhm.
fill me up and light me up. And I think getting out of that imposter syndrome and just thinking that you're only one thing and you can't change, that's the biggest mental block, I think, is to say, wow, I can do so much more than I really give myself credit for.
Jenny, the imposter syndrome has never occurred to me except for the last couple of years. Everybody talks about imposter. I'm an
Yeah.
imposter. And where does this all come from? What are the insecurities that we have about what we know and what we can bring to the table? And suddenly we feel like less than, not enough, which is horrible. We don't need to be there.
No, not at all. And I think it's just taking that moment to look and be like, you're allowed to be proud of yourself for what you've accomplished. And then say, I have done all of these things. And if I pivot to try something else, I'm taking all that experience with me. And I'm just adding on, I call it like a lifelong resume, right? At the end of your life, you're going to look back and say, wow, I did all of these things. And you don't want to just be like, oh, I only did this one thing. And I really have all these things that I never got around to. So just to say, I've done all this already. What else can I challenge myself to do? And then plan a way towards it in a really smooth and confident way.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. But for those of us that, not us, because that's not us, but our listeners that are in a 9 to 5, but itching to explore new business ideas or a passionate project, what small practical steps can they take right now to get started? And we talked about the writing things down. What do you
Mhm.
think?
I think when you have a 9 to 5 job, that's the best time to start planning that business because you have that money coming in. So,
Mm,
what you can really start doing is putting those things in place. And if you don't know what type of business you want, but you know you want to be your own boss, I say that you take a couple ideas of what you're passionate about and research them. I think that's the first step is to research and flush them out. And I've had clients come to me and have 8 to 10 different ideas, and when you really get down to it and you start looking at what the aspects of those jobs are, you can check them off your list and say, "Oh, that's really not for me." And once you narrow it down to one thing, then you can start planning and doing the little things like checking your finances and registering a business name and getting that website started, all those little things while you're working, and you're saving that money and you're just building your confidence too in what you're moving towards.
yeah, that the idea of jumping ship and just going full force for the idea you have has never appealed to me. I mean, with my German
Mm-mm.
mentality, I need security, I need my little blanket, I need to
Yeah.
make sure I have my little security blanket so I can do a little dabbling around and see if it actually works out of what I thought I was going to do, just like you said.
Yeah, and I didn't do it that way. If you remember, I my show was canceled. I was on maternity leave. And I think that's why I jumped into things that weren't right for me. And so I teach my clients to do the exact opposite and be confident and sure. And then you really can go to other people and they'll support you more. They won't think it's such a crazy idea. Like my friends and family thought of me when I decided to leave this career, that you can be like, "No, I've researched it, I'm confident, and this is how I'm going to get there."
Yeah, yep. I like that. Because the idea, to quite be honest, the side hustle also has something that's been over the past 5, maybe even 10 years, I don't know how long, has been
Yeah.
such a, oh, I'm creating my side hustle. The word side hustle does never has never rung true to me. It's more like I'm creating my new life. I'm creating my new
Mm.
passion. Uh, Hopefully you're making money in that new passion. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But just saying, oh, I'm going to stay in my lane with my 9 to 5, and I have my side hustle in case,
Yeah.
you know,
In
it is
case
it.
or
But God knows what happens. Who knows, right?
I think you're right, and I think you're also building it up till that point where you can, cut the apron strings, if you will, like leave the 9 to 5 and say, "This is moving." Or like you said, maybe it's not and I can shut it down. But at some point, if you really wanna make it into full-time, you do have to end it and move into the new venture. But I think it's safe to start with a side hustle if you can, as long as you're devoting enough time to really grow it and see where it can go. Why
Where we
not?
can go, yeah. Your journey from the 16-year media career to entrepreneurship must have reshaped your views on success and fulfillment.
Mm.
How have those definitions evolved for you, and how do you guide your clients in redefining those for their transitions?
That is such an excellent question. I've never been asked. I think for me, like TV, and because I wanted to be in the entertainment industry since I was little, I looked at it like that is the status, right? I'm working in Hollywood. Like this is the big time. And that was success to me. And so when I left, all of my family, all of my friends, including my husband, were in that industry. So that was my world on both
Oh,
coasts, LA and New York. And so when I made the pivot and I decided to launch my first business, which was a franchise business, I felt that, oh, am I as successful now? Because I'm not working in Hollywood with these celebrities and doing all this fancy stuff. And I did have to, like, become, I don't know if humble is the right word, but, like, I had to readjust my views on success, and I did it rather quickly, actually, because I had my priorities in check, and my priorities were my 2 little boys. And so I said, Success for me is being able to be home. And that first business that I launched, I built it out of my house. So I had my little one with me. I was able to be there when my older one needed to be picked up from daycare. I was doing all the things and feeling happy. And that to me was the ultimate success at that point in my life.
What you just recently sold that company? Am I correct with that?
I did. Yeah. I owned it for 8 years. That was a Snapology franchise. So we did STEM education for kids. I sold it a couple months ago, and now I'm 1,000% in with my coaching business.
Which also has a podcast, the Second Act podcast. So if you guys want to listen to Shannon's show, if you're in a career transition or you're contemplating that, that would be a good way to start to get more information,
Mhm.
learn what Shannon teaches and how that all might work well for you in those transitions.
And
But
Heike was on it, and she was such a
I
fantastic
was.
episode.
What advice would you give clients or the listeners here who hit roadblocks and start second guessing their decision mid transition? And how do they stay focused on their vision?
I think you want to look at your life as kind of an adventure and what you want to accomplish at the end of the day. So you're going to have these bumps in the road in your 9 to 5 job, in building a business, really in any aspect of your life. So to look at it like, don't you want to know that you at least tried and that you can check it off of your list? I'm a big list checker. I want to check all the boxes and do all the things. And I think it's really just keeping your eye on that prize and feeling that pride in yourself that you're trying it when a lot of other people don't. And just to say, I am going to do this for me, no one else, just for
Mm.
you, and to accomplish something that you never knew you really could. And I think in life, you want to continually grow and learn and challenge yourself. And sticking with it is the hardest and the most important part.
I think so many give up quickly when they
Yeah.
start something and they don't see that air quotes success, whatever success means. And they're like, oh, I didn't do good. I'm not good at this. Instead of really, like you said, plow in, you know, put your heart and soul in it and see what you can make happen. And when I started, for instance, the Pursue Your Spark podcast, started about 7 years ago by now.
Wow.
And we've been going through iterations through the years, so changing our audiences a little bit and our approaches a little bit. But I was like, I'm not giving up. And when you look at, for instance, let's use podcasting, most people have 5, 6, 7 shows and never do anything else. It
Mhm.
takes work. And you know, Shannon, it's preparing for an interview, editing the interview, getting the audio, doing the show notes, marketing it on social media, preparing and doing all these things takes time and energy away from the other things that we could be doing, like
It's a separate
scroll.
business, right? It's a separate
It
business.
it is, but it feeds into our business. And so the passion is there that we want to share the knowledge we have with as many people as we can. And I always compare this to, I also have a brick and mortar studio here in Maryland, a Pilates
Mhm.
studio. And I said, there's only one 8 a.m. on Tuesday. I can only reach one person at 8 a.m. I can't fit in 10 other women in that time slot. And that's what Pursue Your Spark Blueprint is all about, the group coaching, that we
Yeah.
can work collectively together as a group and everybody gets their 8 a.m. slot.
It's brilliant.
But for the listeners, what tips would you give them to pursue their spark, strategic, purposeful, authentic, resilient, and or knowledgeable?
Mm. Make that list of those couple of things that you want to pursue in your life and that will fulfill you as a person, not you as a mom, you as a partner, you as a daughter, but you. Like, what is that dream you might have had when you were little? You wanted to dance or you wanted to do art, whatever it is. And write those things down and just take little action to work towards them every day. And know that you deserve it. I think, you
Mm.
deserve to feel fulfilled in your life and not stuck, and you're worth the effort it takes to work towards what's going to make you spark and come alive.
I know, right? Don't give up. Keep
No.
plowing along. Like Shannon has now her third business job, and
Mhm.
she's going so strong. And I follow her on social media, of course, and read everything about her since we're friends. But you see the approaches. Oh, this month I've learned something new. I'm going to implement that and see if that resonates.
Yeah.
I'm going to do maybe something different if it didn't resonate. So there's never a setback. It's a process of learning, and but not a process of failure because we didn't succeed in that one step.
We're testing, and in our businesses who we're serving, and we want, like, you and I have both made this pivot. We're building this happier life for ourselves, and you just want to help other women and just get out there to, inspire others. But it's constantly changing in our businesses or our podcasts, and writing books and whatever it is that we're pursuing. But yeah, you're just focusing on that goal, which is just supporting others and fulfilling our journeys as well.
As well. Which brings me to your spark. What are you most excited about right now?
I think it is my book. We were talking about this
Yes.
before we recorded, but yeah, it's my book is locked and ready to go for its early 2025 launch. And I'm just really proud of myself for accomplishing this goal that I've wanted to be an author forever. And it's just something that it's hard, I think, for us to say that we're proud of ourselves. It feels weird to say that, but this is something that I think everyone dreams about, writing a book maybe, but you don't do it. And the fact that I said, I'm going to write a book in 2024 and I did it. So I'm just excited to get it out there in other people's hands. And yeah, it's called Start Your Second Act. So I'm very excited about it.
So that's why you guys have to follow Shannon, because you want to get your hands on her book. If
Yeah.
you're in a career transition, or if you just like to get to know her and read interesting things that she's doing with her business, which I always say is true too. Oftentimes we just look in our niche of what we're doing. In my case, it would be fitness, but somebody
Right.
else who does something completely different has maybe different ideas that also will resonate with the new business that somebody might want to start. So with
Yeah.
that, Shannon, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's so great to have you. And thanks for sharing all your great advice.
Thank you so much for having me. I would talk to you forever. It's so fun.